right, this is exciting, isn't it?
Here we go, guys, in 5, 4, 3.
Here we go.
It's time for Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive.
Thank you for good programming, and I appreciate the content and really enjoyed every moment.
It's a privilege to have you on your station, and it's good stuff. It's very educational.
It's time for Joan Esposito on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Joan Esposito on Fridays, a show so important they decided to start it twice. Yes, indeedy. Apparently there are rumors you could not hear me. I think people do this to make Lady B crazy. They go into the studio and they switch a switch and nobody tells anybody. And then Lady B thinks we're starting and I think we're starting, but apparently you don't think we're starting because you don't hear anything. Luckily, Lady B is on to their hijinks. And she knows exactly where to look. And she has once again pulled it together for us. And we are back on the air. Too bad you didn't hear the original beginning because, man, I've never been so eloquent, so moving. It was heartfelt. You would probably be in tears right now if you had actually heard the original beginning to my show. Sadly, it's gone now. So we'll just have to do the best we can with what we've got. Happy Friday. As you know, it is the start of the weekend. And even though we might appear, all of us, to be doing our jobs, we're not really. Mentally, we are on vacation. We are on our 3-day weekend, which is like a vacation. Okay. So we are going to 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278 or WCPT for those last four numbers. It is Friday. We are going to talk about the news of the day for the entire first half of the show. So please text me or call Lady B, and she will help you get on the air with me. There's lots more important things going on in the world. But you know how the courts said the construction on the ballroom had to stop? Because the people who had filed suit and said, hey, this isn't right, he's doing this illegally, shouldn't be happening. And the court said, well, we've got to make a final decision here, but, let's stop the construction until we figure out what's going on. So Donald Trump did what Donald Trump does. He appealed to the Supreme Court. His Supreme Court, the 6 Republicans in robes, the partisan hacks, the white supremacists pretending to be judges. And the Supreme Court, I know you're going to be shocked. You better sit down. The Supreme Court said, we better make a judgment. We should make a judgment about this. Yeah, we should look into this whole ballroom construction thing. Was it legal? Was it not legal? Should it be stopped? Yeah, we'll ponder this, but until we make a decision, go ahead. Keep building it. We don't care what the lower courts say. We never care what the lower courts say. Even when a judge makes a ruling that says, the Constitution is clear, this is the way it's got to go, the Supreme Court goes, yeah, but is it really? I don't think the Supreme Court is ever as clear as you think it is. So they have given Donald Trump what he wants, a shock, to get the construction back underway again. Yay. And as far as I've seen so far, it's just temporary, right? This is just going to happen until we make a decision. Do you get that? Well, when are you going to make that decision? Can you give us an idea about that? Okay, well, we don't like to be tied down with dates. We'll give you our decision. You want to print something? Print that our decision could come at any time. Anytime. Whew. We could have a decision by the end of the day today. And again, maybe we're not going to make a decision on this for a while. But in the interim, even though we might declare that the construction is illegal, you just keep building it, Donald. You just keep building it. we wouldn't want to keep you from that, right? Yeah. That's what the Supreme Court is telling us. So what else is going on? Oh, this whole Natalie Harp thing is blowing up big. You may have seen the video of Melania, who came back to the White House to announce some sort of scholarship that she was working with some other groups to put out there. A scholarship. She's back. There was a controversy, not because Natalie Harp worships Donald Trump, though that's weird enough as it is, but Natalie Harp apparently had never had any kind of security clearance. And people who are in close contact with the president are supposed to have that. I know, silly, isn't it? And apparently every time that she had been given the papers to fill out, she had refused. So when this started to break, apparently the White House took her aside and said, go home for a couple of days, fill out this paperwork. And then, because, Donald Trump can give anybody security clearance. Remember in his first term when Jared Kushner couldn't get a security clearance? Oh, I don't know. Maybe his ties to foreign governments had something to do with that. And Donald Trump was like, no, he gets a security clearance, give it to him. He could do the same thing with Natalie. But at least Jared Kushner went through the process. Natalie was initially told to go home for a day or two. We'll make an announcement that you have a security clearance and then you can come back. But now there's some suggestion that with the reappearance of Melania, that maybe Natalie isn't going to be quite so obviously right next to Trump all the time. That maybe while Melania is hanging around, Natalie might be gone ski for a while. Some were speculating that this gives the White House, for as long as Melania is there, and some people say they think she's going to be there for a month or two, maybe 3, that this gives the White House time to do a proper security background check into Natalie Harp. Not that it matters. I mean, this is going to be pro forma. Because even if, like with Jared, they say, you know what? It doesn't really seem like she should have the kind of clearance to be next to the president all the time. And if you're next to the president all the time, you can't help but come in contact with classified stuff. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what they find. Donald Trump is going to insist that she get that security clearance. He doesn't care. And yes, that picture that is making the rounds on social media is real. The one, apparently, I don't know, there's a bunch of guys. He's at, I think it's Bedminster, and there's a bunch of people in golf carts. He's heading off to golf. And if you look at the back of the picture, you can see a skinny little blonde woman running along the golf cart course. Yeah, she was told that she couldn't sit in the golf carts. So as this convoy of golf carts took off, she is running behind them. This is just like there wasn't a place for her in the motorcade when he was going to court in New York. So she put herself in the trunk of an SUV, telling everybody that Trump wanted her there, so this was okay. Yeah, it's pretty weird, isn't it? And, for the people who are saying, oh, leave her alone, the poor girl. Well, you know what? If the poor girl is not stable and is on a daily basis in proximity to classified, perhaps secret, top secret documents, isn't that something we should be concerned about? Let's frame it in a way that Republicans can understand. Joe Biden constantly entertains the company of a woman less than half his age who is known to write letters talking about her obsession with him. and Joe Biden decides that she belongs in the White House every day, despite the fact that she has no security clearance? Oh, how would you feel about that? Anything that you're defending about Trump, think in your head, okay, let's take Trump out of the mix and pretend it's Joe Biden. And if we think it's shocking that Joe Biden would do X, then maybe we should think it's shocking, I don't know, that Donald Trump does X. Yeah, Joe Biden, you know, everywhere he goes, this woman who's less than half his age is there with him and constantly professes her adoration. Known as Printer Girl, because she used to always, when he was, remember at the E. Jean Carroll thing? She used to print out articles that spoke positively of Donald Trump and share them with him. See, everybody does like you. They do like you. They do like you. Read this one, boss. Donald Trump once said that Natalie Harp loves him more than his children love him. I don't know how high a bar that is, since by all accounts, he has treated them much the way he was treated growing up. It's like, what can you do for me? It's all transactional, which is why he has the kids he does. So, yeah, Natalie Harp is fair game. Try thinking of this with the shoe on the other foot. What do you mean Joe Biden has a young woman with him 24/7, apparently, who apparently helps write his social media posts and writes these long, weird letters about how he's everything to her? You probably would think that was weird. You would probably think that was inappropriate. You would probably think that that's something that Joe Biden should stop doing. But when it comes to Trump, it's like, oh, come on, you're not being fair to her. She's a private citizen. When you are with the president as often and as much as she is, you can be a private citizen, but I want you to have a security clearance. I want to know, and there's already been reporting, by the way, kids, that foreign governments who want Donald Trump's attention or, heaven forbid, an audience with him, they have learned over the last year to go through Natalie. That's not, some weird website publishing that. That's mainstream media. That foreign governments have learned that going through Natalie is one of the keys to getting to Trump. Head exploding. And one last thing, because, Donald Trump wants you to know that there is no bottom, that when you think he's hit rock bottom of bad behavior, he wants you to know there's no bottom. And no matter what he does and how horrified you are, he can be worse. Let's hope that the public backlash about this prevents it from happening. There is the Navy's building a new carrier, and it was supposed to be named for a black sailor by the name of Doris Miller. He was a war hero. And the Navy announced that this new carrier was going to be the USS Doris Miller. Doris Miller was a hero when Pearl Harbor was attacked. He was a Navy cook, and he had no training on weapons. But when Pearl Harbor happened, he found some weapons and reportedly shot down at least 4 and possibly as many as 6 Japanese bombers. He eventually died during World War II. He was on a ship that was hit with a Japanese torpedo, a ship that lost 2/3 of the sailors on board. He was awarded the Navy Cross. The citation on that Navy Cross reads, while at the side of his captain on the bridge of the battleship USS West Virginia, mess attendant, because back then, if you were an African American, there weren't a lot of jobs for you in the Navy, but working in the cafeteria was one of them. Mess attendant first class Doris Miller, despite enemy strafing and bombing and in the face of serious fire, assisted in moving his captain, who had been mortally wounded, to a place of greater safety, and later manned and operated a machine gun directed at enemy Japanese attacking aircraft until ordered to leave the bridge. The next carrier that we are going to launch, the Navy had already announced, was going to be the USS Doris Miller. Until the most insecure, immature, amoral person in ever became head of this country. And apparently some in the Navy who realize now their careers depend upon sucking up to him. Because, if you don't suck up, have you seen about all the retirements and all the firings? Yeah. Do you think those are people who said no to either Hegseth or Trump, or said, you can't do this, or God forbid, you shouldn't do this? So who's left? Randy Manner told us that his fear was that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth would simply fire anybody with a backbone until they got to the military officers who would say yes. The Navy announced recently that, maybe they're not going to name it the Doris Miller. They're going to name it the USS Donald Trump. In case you're puzzled by this, ships are generally not named for anybody who's alive. It's supposed to be an honor after you've passed. Oh, yeah, that was a good person. They passed. Let's name a ship for them. Let's name a carrier for them. Let's name a destroyer for them. And the Navy apparently is it has announced, at least privately, but of course now it's public, that they're going to name this carrier, instead of the USS Doris Miller, it's going to be the USS Donald Trump. No carrier in our Navy has ever been named for a sitting president, but then we've never had a sitting president so insecure, so terrified that we're going to forget him. He wants to be remembered forever, because he knows if his name isn't everywhere, he's going to be a very forgettable human being. And he's terrified about that. He's absolutely terrified about that. Well, since this switcheroo became public, there has been, I know this is going to shock you, there's been a backlash. People saying, what? Seriously? You've already announced that this is happening, and now you're going to name it for Donald Trump? Because why? Because he's desperate? Because he's insecure? Because he's immature? Because he's a baby? All of the above. All of the above. I want to share with you, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today that's serious. But before we do that, I want to share with you, Rosie O'Donnell, one of Donald Trump's most hated enemies, has been filling in this week on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, much, I'm sure, to Donald Trump's dismay. And last night was her last night, and she made an announcement that she had a special way that she wanted to end her final monologue filling in for Jimmy Kimmel this week. It is a song. It is an Irish song. She's an Irish woman. And I want to share Rosie O'Donnell's song with you right now.
I would like to close my final monologue here with a traditional Irish song dedicated to a very special boy. Oh, Donny boy, it's Rosie, Rosie calling from Hollywood, the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Drop that Big Mac that we all know you're holding. Because, my dear, I worry for you so. Poor Donny boy, your poles are falling. Your reflecting pool is green as Mountain Dew. Your wig's a mess, your ballroom is appalling. And with Naran, you bit off more than you can chew. Measles are back, inflation is a swelling. You post all night, you're sleeping while you work. And what's with all this useless crap you're selling? Hey, sweetie pie, you're driving us all berserk. But there's a way to end this drama. It's time to use that stable genius brain. Since we all know you'll never be Obama. Why not resign and make this country great again? Yes, we all know you'll never be Obama. Come on, resign and make this country great again.
We'll be back with more after this.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Want to join the conversation?
I'm going to say exactly what I think here.
Got something to say?
Everyone needs to hear what I got to say.
Call Joan now at 773-763-9278 and join the conversation. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820.
Lady B, I was looking through the texts during that break. And for those of you who weren't there at the very beginning, we had a switch turned the wrong way. So I was talking, but not realizing I wasn't going out over the air. Lady B found it. We fixed it. We started over. Lady B, I got this text, Dave from Hoffman Estates. Oh, no, we'll form a search party. They were ready to start beating the bushes to find us, Lady B. I just want you to know how very, very loyal our listeners are. And perhaps not surprisingly, Dave from Hoffman Estates is already on the phone line. Hello, Dave. Thank you so much. When you knew Lady B and I were supposed to be here and we weren't here and you knew something was wrong. And I am glad you were ready to take action.
Oh, funny you mentioned about the Supreme Court at the beginning. I just read in this, the Daily Boulder, it was whatever, said that the D.C. Bar is officially deciding whether to investigate Chief Justice John Roberts for misconduct over millions in payments to his wife.
One of the people we have on all the time, Christopher Armitage, is the one who brought that complaint. And initially, the first group that he brought it to, even though as he says, there's perfect grounds, they were like, oh, yeah, we don't think we're going to do this. So he took it to the next level. And the next level, they said, well, this seems to be at least worth looking into. So, yeah, Christopher Armitage, we can thank him for that.
Yeah, because it says, that docket as number 2026 U795 centers on the millions of dollars reportedly received by Roberts' wife, Jane Roberts, from law firms involved in cases before the Supreme Court.
Yes, and here's where that's fishy, because you might say, women can have their own careers, and why does that mean that he should be investigated? It's because she did a job. She was a recruiter for law firms. Only if you look at what other recruiters made for doing the same job, she made like 10 times as much money. What? And you know what? A lot of the law firms that hired her, I know this is going to seem weird to you, but they had cases that were going to end up in front of the Supreme Court. Isn't that interesting? There was a time when we might have called that a conflict of interest, but no more.
And then another one you figure is Ginny Roberts, but then they, not Ginny Roberts, but Ginny,
Vance?
Nope. The other Supreme Court. I'm drawing a blank right now. The one that the black Supreme Court, the man.
Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas. Thank you. His wife, Ginny Thomas. That's what I meant. Thank you. And but they said you'd have to have Congress do that one or something.
Boy, yeah, right.
Yeah, that'll go real good. But when you mentioned about that Natalie Harp, that Stepford wife or whatever, but remember the only closest I could think of that was, if you remember Monica Lewinsky, she was smitten with Clinton, but she was also, 12 years younger than this.
Yeah, she was an intern. And the way she got that internship is apparently her family had been big donors to the Clinton campaign. So they got their daughter a White House internship, something that I'm sure they all regret very deeply.
I feel real bad, though. I mean, they turned Clinton into a statesman, the pig that he was, and they slut-shamed her, and that poor woman's life got ruined because of that guy. And I've heard her. I've heard her speak, and she has taken what could possibly be the worst thing that could ever happen to anybody. I mean, she's basically accused of performing a sex act on the president. And she has come out the other side stronger and more resilient, and she talks about stuff like that. Good for her. Yeah, that she got somewhat, her back, but I don't think, did Clinton ever apologize? I don't think so either. But remember that was his. Remember his big testimony. It wasn't sex. It wasn't sex. Yeah. Of course, the ones that all wanted to go after him, the ink wasn't even dry on it. How many of them, it turned out they had these skeletons in the closet, like, because of Newt Gingrich and all of them. They just... Yeah. But on that, so you can get to the others, and then on that Navy wanting to, screw over this Doris Miller, yeah. Yeah, that's wrong. That is so wrong. Here you got a hero, he took it upon himself. And Trump himself even said it in his first term that, they put that they're going to build this ship, maybe an excellent for me or something, he said. Well, he's such a pathetic person. Yeah. Well, he doesn't even understand. I mean, he does things like this, and he thinks he doesn't understand that the world is laughing at him. He just is he's so clueless. But he whined about that in that first one, that, the next one will be for me or whatever. And remember that time, too. Everything he else mentions, he comes back to. And remember that time he mentioned when he had went out to Al-Avab or whatever air base. And he said, I should get the Congressional Medal of Honor. How soon do you think they'll push for that yet? But I guess the only thing they could do is, all right, if the fools change it to him, just wait till the next Democratic president comes in and do like they did. There was a few of those ships that time that still had Confederate, that time, and they changed the names on that. Just wait on that. Yes, I hope that everything that Donald Trump puts his name on, I hope his name gets removed. I really do. And, somebody called in the other day and they were like, Democrats, they'll get in power and they'll say, we'll just leave well enough alone. And no, we want his name gone. Yeah. And so you get to what's the next ship going to be named, the Bobby Garwood? Well, somebody texted in, Dave, that, we have a ship called the USS Constitution, and it's affectionately known by the nickname Old Ironsides. And they said, if there's a USS Trump, maybe someday its nickname will be Old Bone Spurs or Chicken of the Sea. That would be good. Or like somebody had named the anchor after him, so he'll hit bottom. Yeah, really. So, what is an anchor? It is the lowest point on a ship going nowhere. Thanks, Joan. Let me clear off on this. All right, be well.
You too. Let's go to Keithion from Chicago. Hello. Thanks for the call today. Glad you're calling back.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Good.
Joan. I'll get straight to the point because I love listening to Dave, and I know Paul's going to call. And probably I forgot Jim or whatever his name is, and but I love all of them. They are the smartest audience in the world. To the Tom Hartman audience, to everybody on CPT, the callers are phenomenal. And I
think we've got a pretty good group too, and you're a part of that. And I thank you for joining the conversation today.
And thanks for taking my call. I'll get to the point. When you steal something and you don't get caught as a child, it's as if you got it for free. Especially if you don't tell anybody, you live with it. And America is facing that problem now. Trump grew up like that. If I steal it and I don't get caught, it's no harm, no foul. And when you steal a little and you get away with it, and you use it to pleasure yourself, you don't think about the repercussions behind it. Yep. And the whole system turns into, and then things start coming where people start looking at you and they start saying, hey, we put this, and there, and the only person that's around us is this person. And that's America right now. They're saying, hey, this guy's, this guy's stealing from me. I'm not gonna wake up with my pension. I'm not gonna wake up with the Social Security plan that I had planned for all my life. I'm not gonna wake up with the 401k benefits that I had. I'm not even gonna wake up when he's gone to owning my house at the time that I planned on owning it. Everything's going up. My car, my insurance, my every single thing that it takes to be in America is going through the roof. And when I remember after Katrina, when gas was just as high, there was no jobs, nobody working. The government was not giving aid to people. There was discrimination all over the world. Didn't nobody want the New Orleans people coming into their towns, and the whole world just lost their mind when they found out, hey, we're struggling. Mm-hmm. Now Hurricane Katrina is Trump, and we're struggling. Yeah. People don't want to let people over here. People don't want people coming in over the border, taking stuff back. But before Trump, the storm would be rebuilt behind. People would go back to their neighborhoods and rebuild their house, call the insurance company, and do whatever they have to do, help their neighbors, the churches churched in. And then this guy, MAGA, me, us. We want this. We want this. We don't want anybody else to have anything that we don't think that they need. We are communists. We are communists because if it doesn't work for us, then we will scrap it. We'll destroy it and start all over again. But you have to deal with the repercussions of the project that we put forth and that totally destroyed everything. Now we're just going to wipe the slate clean, make everybody forget about everything we did. The Supreme Court, we didn't fight when they was asking for voters' rights. We didn't fight for the LGBTQ community. We didn't fight for the Latino community. We didn't fight for the Jews way back then. We didn't fight for anybody in America except Americans. We didn't fight for Black Americans to be equal. Nobody was equal except white, Aryan Americans. You know how I feel about that. The founding father kids and the rich people that the Klan didn't kick out of the country before they took over completely in the 1920s. But they are running the system, and the system is not working for them now. And they're like, wait a minute. We got to do something about it. We got to change the rules on everything. We got to go socialist. We got to find out who's taking this and who's doing this and who's sleeping with who and who's putting money in whose pocket and why is my suitcase half full? And they asked for it. 80 some plus million people asked for it. The 70-something million that voted for Kamala and the Democrats and stuff, they're a mixed bag of nuts. They're almonds, pistachios, pecans. They're every nut in the bag, and they're voting, and half of them have family members who cannot vote. And half of them are family members who's been restricted to vote because of the rules and the regulations. It's already been going on, but now they've put it in full force for everybody to see because they can't stand losing what it takes to be an Aryan white American.
Thank you for the call. I got to get to a break, and I'm telling you, mixed bag of nuts is going to be my new catchphrase, and I thank you for that.
No, I thank you for taking my call. I love the show. Thank you.
We're going to take a break and be back with more after this.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
It is Friday. We spend the first half of the show up till 3:30 talking about the news of the day with you, reading your texts, taking your calls. Got this interesting text from John in New Jersey. Honestly, forget about Natalie's security clearance. After January 6th, if Trump were any other federal employee, he would never get a security clearance just by his association with the January 6th insurgents, no less as their leader. You are very, very correct, John. Breathtaking, isn't it? Breathtaking. And how we elected this guy a second time, I mean, I don't care if people didn't like Joe Biden, and I don't care if people thought Kamala was too much like him, and God forbid she was a woman of color. You knew what he was like the first time around. And now you're like, well, wait a minute. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. He was supposed to attack all the other people. Too bad. I don't have a lot of sympathy for that sentiment. Okay. Let's go back to the phone lines. Carl from Kankakee told Bedelia he has a story about his dad. I'd love to hear it, Carl.
Okay, put a log on the fire.
Okay.
We're going back to 1952. My dad was 32 years old down here in Kankakee, and they closed down the main street of town to have a Get Out the Vote parade. And my dad was a participant, and he carried a goose. A goose is a huge animal.
Yes, I know. Large, noisy, and frequently poops.
Yeah. He carried a sign that said, if you don't vote, you can't squawk.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you called with that story. That is a wonderful story. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I was talking about the people who voted for Trump who have buyer's remorse, but it's the people who stayed home. They're really the ones who gave us Donald Trump. I don't know. I don't really like what Joe Biden did. And so I'm just going to sit this one out. Well, are you happy? Are you happy with how that worked out?
So 2026, fast forward, what's the equivalent of a Get Out the Vote parade down Main Street these days?
Gee, we'll have to think about that. I like that idea, though. I like the idea of a Get Out the Vote parade.
We'll work on that for the next election.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how many days away?
I believe it's 74 today, but who's counting?
We'll be counting our days in the cell.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, mixed bag of nuts, indeed. That's a great line.
Yeah.
If Trump's name goes on an aircraft carrier, if that goes through, then our Navy is headed by cowards.
Yes, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. It's shameful. It is absolutely, and it would be one thing if they had just said all along, well, when the boat is finished, when the ship is finished, I'm sorry, they're not boats. When the ship is finished, well, then we'll figure out what to do with it. But to have announced that this was going to happen and then say, oh, yeah, that thing we said we were going to do? Well, we're going to do something completely different. That is just beyond shameful. It is. I'm glad there's been an outcry, and I hope that the outcry prevents it from happening. That, especially Republicans now, they're heading into the midterms, and it's like Donald Trump is doing everything in his power to make them lose. It's shocking.
Well, let's make it so.
Yes, let's. What do you say? I'm all for that.
No, the Navy heads, if they go through, no honor.
Yep.
And the military is based on honor.
Yes, they are. At least they're supposed to be. We're trying to get, I often talk to retired Major General Randy Manner, and we are trying to get him for next week. And that's one of the things that I want to talk to him about, is this whole idea that that the Navy or some lickspittles in the Navy could possibly change the name of this aircraft carrier. I'm sure, of course, by the time Randy shows up, I think he's booked for Wednesday. God only knows what will have happened between then and now. Who knows? We may not even get to that topic.
Anything's possible.
Yeah.
When we get our Democratic president, we will embark on the great cleansing.
God, I hope so. I really hope so. I don't want to take the high road, and I don't want to turn the other cheek, and I don't want to just move on. No, I want to hold these people's feet to the fire. I want to impeach Todd Blanche. I want to impeach Kash Patel. Some people are saying, Donald Trump will be impeached, and I have read that. But I think Donald Trump should be kept there because he's basically a lame duck. We get rid of him. We got J.D. Vance to contend with. And let's just impeach each and every one of the people that he has put in place and watch him see all of his toadies get kicked to the curb. But I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter, Carl. I'm not bitter. No.
Again, we're having fun.
Yes. Thank you, Carl, and thank you so much for the call. I appreciate it.
Eloquent is the word.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but thank you. Let's go back to Chicago. Our good friend Jim is on the line. Hello, Jim.
Hi, Joan. I had just an experience yesterday. It was really strange. They had the intelligence officer, the high rungs of the CIA, and a woman. She worked through the last three administrations. She worked in the first Trump administration. And apparently Pence would take their intelligence seriously, but Trump would never look at it. And then she was fired in December, and she said he never looked at it. He never looked at the intelligence at all. And then he's actually, for whatever reason, decimated the intelligence service in the United States. And what she pointed out was, you have to understand that some of these intelligence officers stick their neck out in different situations around the world to get a tidbit of information that might sway the saving somebody's life. And then she went on to say that the answer about the war in Iran, she said, everybody, when I left to go to Starbucks, we all knew that was insane. The office workers knew it was insane to go into Iran. And the third, and then what else did she say? She said that what he really likes to do is scour the internet and support any conspiracy theory that is his base likes, like if it's Fauci or if he started World War III, whatever it is. That's what he does. That's what he does all day. When he's not staring at TV, because TV, this is the truth. You cannot bring on a political guest on TV any longer. Anybody who disagrees with Trump, they're so afraid that they'll be squashed in court, or Toddy will take them to court. Yeah. But we're in a position. Imagine the intelligence service being decimated. She said it'll take generations to get it back where it was. And
Yep.
It was an incredible interview, and she happened to be transgender of all things, and they give you a hard time about that. She said, no, they didn't give me a hard time about that. But this is how crazy the world is. She said, I'd have to go across the street to the washroom just in case that somebody would, blow the whistle or whatever the case may be. But I mean, you imagine this, you're in the highest rungs of intelligence. You got to go across the street to the washroom, and you know that he's destroying the intelligence service.
Well, I seem to vaguely recall, Jim, that whoever he put in charge of the CIA recently, one of their mandates was to get rid of a lot of personnel. I guess we're just going to rely on intelligence that we get from Israel from now on. I don't know.
Yeah. Netanyahu's intelligence and Trump's intelligence, and I'll go on record saying I haven't detected any intelligence out of this guy ever since he was trying to be a celebrity. It's escaped me. But anyway, Joan, it's the weekend. Was it the 21st? Of, what the hell is this? February? No. It's what is the month? Oh, it's August. Yeah. This November is the longest stretch in the world. Anyway, Joan, thanks,
Jim.
Have a good weekend, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the call. Remember, this is Friday. If you're waiting on the phone line, stay there. Yes, we are going to take a break for news, but on Friday, we continue to interact with your texts and your calls until 3:30. So we are going to continue to read your texts and take your phone calls when we come back on the other side of the news. We will be back in just a few minutes.
The Thom Hartmann radio program provides all of the intelligence, information, and insight you'll need to win the water cooler wars. Weekdays 11 to 2 right here on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk, where facts matter. Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Time for Joan Esposito. Live, local, and progressive.
Joan, as always, exceptional work from you from, your TV days all the way up to today. You're truly exceptional, and thanks for this great show you have.
It's time for Joan Esposito on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
It is Friday, and as you know, every Friday we spend the first half of the show reading your texts and taking your calls. Let's go back to the phone lines. Claire is on the line from Chicago. Hey, Claire, thanks for the call today.
Hi. Good afternoon. I'm upset with Democratic strategist David Axelrod because there's many articles. He's been criticizing Jon Ossoff for speaking about Natalie Harp, saying that it was inappropriate. And I feel like agree with you that this is an important issue, and all Democrats should actually be talking about this bizarre relationship with her and Trump. Shouldn't David Axelrod be criticizing Donald Trump rather than Jon Ossoff for all the myriad of crimes he's committed?
Claire, I agree with you on that. David Axelrod is a really nice human being, but I don't know what's going on with him. It almost seems to me, and David, if you want to call in or text in and correct me, I'm here. It almost seems to me that recently David Axelrod has taken a contrarian position on everything. Oh, X is happening in the Democrats? Well, I see why. This person spoke up. Well, they shouldn't have, or they should have said this other thing instead. And it almost, I hope he doesn't mean it this way, but it almost seems like he's trying to, how they accuse John Fetterman of just being obsessed with social media and wanting to be talked about on social media? It seems to me that David Axelrod is taking so many contrarian positions that I wonder if he isn't doing it to stay relevant or on social media or retweeted, retexted. It doesn't, you're right, because it's not only this. Look at what David Axelrod, the conversations he's had over the last few months, criticizing Democrats, criticizing the socialists, criticizing everybody in ways that, to me, are certainly not productive, certainly don't seem to promote the Democratic Party or Democratic policies, but rather, because there's so much of it, the only conclusion I can come to is that he does it to get attention. I know maybe that's not fair, but that's sure what it seems like.
I can't figure him out, but this is such a horrible time right before the midterms to be, putting a wrench and a wedge in the Democratic Party, and attacking his own party. It's a disservice to our party and criticizing a good man like John Ossoff, among all the other things he's done. And it's really helping the Republicans. I mean, he's really out of touch. And there's so many articles from The Guardian and The Hill about, this is so wrong of him. And, if he needs attention, shouldn't he be praising John Ossoff for his great speeches and all the other Democrats?
Well, you would think so. And Natalie Harp is fair game. Natalie Harp has made herself a part of the conversation. And to pretend that she's just some poor little girl who wandered in off the street. She used to work for OANN, that far right channel that some people, when people decide Fox News is too liberal, they go over to Newsmax or OANN. She was an on-air person. That makes you a public figure, even if she weren't with the president in a weird way 24/7 with no security clearance. Come on, seriously? I'm sorry. I'm getting very annoyed with David Axelrod.
I am too, and it's really heartbreaking because we don't need, right now we need to unite the party, not divide the party. And he's really, he's upsetting me very much.
He's not helping, is he? He doesn't seem to be helping.
No.
This vote blue, no matter who, and we're a big tent. Where's that, David? Where's that?
That's a good point. The big tent party, and he's really, really out of touch. And if he's on your show again, tell him. I don't know if other callers have any thoughts about him, but I'm glad you feel. I haven't said anything because personally, I know he's a very nice person, but it's and if one comment here or there, maybe you could just dismiss. But it seems to be his new tack on everything to criticize the Democrats, criticize the candidates, criticize who's elected, criticize what they stand for. I don't know. He's like John Fetterman, complete.
Yes, and that ain't a good comparison.
No.
No, it is not.
Thank you so much, Joan.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks for the call. I'm sure we'll both hear from David Axelrod soon, but whatever, we've got to say what we think, right? We've got to say what seems true. Okay.
Thank you so much.
David texted in from Bloomingdale. They say when you die, you either go to heaven or hell, and that depends on how you are remembered. Maybe Donald Trump should start thinking about that. Somebody once asked him if he thought he would go to heaven, and he kind of hedged. I don't know if he doesn't think he's going to heaven or if he doesn't care one way or the other. But it was he wasn't like, oh, absolutely, because I'm a great guy. No, we didn't get that. Anyway, let's go back to the phone lines. Al is on the line from Franklin Park. Hey, Al, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Joan. Actually, on Natalie Harp, there was so little said about her, and the right has picked it up so much, and we are learning so much about what is going on in the White House. So, and the way that the Republicans and have been handling this is really telling us a lot. So it's been kind of that sly statement has kind of been a gift to us in that respect.
Yeah. And, I think that a lot of people say she's not just his sycophant, that she's his caregiver. I don't know about that. It has been reported that she does help him write his social media posts. So that's kind of weird because we know those are frequently bizarre. But I don't know. Do you remember in Trump's first term, when he was first in the White House, Melania went back to New York, and Trump was so agitated and so seemingly out of control that Reince Priebus and other people in the Republican Party, it's been reported since then, reached out to Melania and begged her to come and move into the White House because they felt she would be a stabilizing force, that she would help stabilize him. Maybe that's, since Melania has pretty much had it, maybe that's what Natalie does. Who knows?
That's what I have heard, is she is a stabilizing force. Mm-hmm. And that was mentioned by ECM, Elizabeth Kronos McLaughlin, is a lawyer I listen to, and she was saying that today as well. She does a podcast 3 times a week. But actually, what I called in was to tell you that I listened to an Indivisible meeting from Wednesday called Hands Off Our Vote. And I just finished that a few hours ago, and I had been told that it was pretty good. And yes, it is. And it's all about, the fact that we have a lot going on to try to fight against any type of problems that are going to show up in the election coming up. And also, it had Annette Shankan-Sario on, who is also a very good person looking at statistics and figuring out how the messaging is working, and making comments like, people are believing what is being repeated the most, and we just have to be kind of doing the same thing and getting our message out in that respect. And it was just a very good one. It was really easy to find. I just went to YouTube and entered Indivisible, and it showed up right away because it's pretty new, but it's called Hands Off Our Vote. So I recommend that.
And I also recommend what you just described. If you are somebody, you see the midterms coming and you're worried about it and you want to do something, but you really don't know how or what to do exactly what Al did. Go online, and I guarantee it might not be Indivisible. Maybe it'll be a local Democratic group. Maybe it'll be an activist group of another kind. But there are so many options out there, and a lot of times it's not like you have to, hold a sign at an intersection for 3 hours or do, send postcards or canvas. There are lots of things that you can do from home. I mean, just paying attention to what things are coming up for a vote, filling out a witness slip, sending emails or making calls to your local and state and national representatives. That is huge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because there's so many more of us than there are of them. And they actually covered a lot of that. It was just over an hour long, and it was really good. And I would recommend that. And let's see, I had one more point. Next week is going to be on mobilization in case we do have any problems coming up in the election, because there's a lot of thought and a lot of people out there working. We know the election is going to happen, and we can't be paying attention to all these people saying that it's not going to happen or Trump's not going to let it happen. But because it is, we just have to do everything that it is to be ready. And we have the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center, many other organizations and people working on all this right now, and we just have to be ready. And,
yes.
And if we get the vote out, back to that. I gotta harp that. We gotta go be out in masses. Okay.
Yes, Al. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a great idea, and something that we need to be talking about going forward. Thank you for that. I got to get to a break. We're going to take more calls, and yes, I do appreciate all of the Navy ship jokes that are being sent my way. I absolutely appreciate them a lot. Some of them might even be fit for air. We'll come back with more after this.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Every weekday afternoon from 2 to 5 p.m. on WCPT 820.
Until 3:30, we are going to take your calls and read your texts. I did not remember this, but somebody texted in, Claire and I were talking about David Axelrod and how instead of focusing on Republicans, he seems to be finding fault with Democratic candidates, Democratic officials, Democratic policies, et cetera, and so forth. Somebody texted in, I remember when Michelle Obama began to talk about the fact that she and David Axelrod didn't see eye to eye. He always had a complaint about something, and she would just say, give it a rest, David. So I guess he's been a contrarian for longer than I realized. Let's go to the phone. Ron is on the line from Chicago. Hello, Ron.
Hello. In the last 10 years, the national debt has doubled from 20 million now to 40 trillion, and this is mostly because of the tax breaks given to the millionaires and billionaires, and also the increase in the military budget.
Well, don't you think that the millionaires and trillionaires will take good care of you, Ron, if we just put them in charge? Don't you have any faith in them? Because the fact that they're rich, it must mean they're smarter than all of us when it comes to every single topic. And there's absolutely no evidence that some of them got rich just because of the timing or because they were the right person in the right place or because they just got lucky. No, they got rich, Ron, because they're better than us. That's why they should lead us.
Yeah, and they'll get richer when they take away my Social Security.
Yeah, really. And Mike Johnson was said publicly recently that if the Republicans keep the House of Representatives after the midterms, that they're going to try to balance the budget by taking more away from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He said, those entitlement programs, they suck too much. There's too much money in those. So, yeah. And Social Security, Mike, I paid for that. I paid for that. That ain't yours, and that's not an entitlement. That is money I put in, and I'm now getting back.
Right. And also, you mentioned Dory Miller was on the battleship West Virginia during Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
That ship was right next to the battleship Arizona when it exploded. I can't imagine being there.
Yeah. I was in Hawaii many, many, many years ago. I think it was when I was pregnant with my son. And one of the things my mom and I visited was the memorial for the USS Arizona. And, you just stop talking and you just start thinking about it. And, a friend of mine is retired Navy, and he told me that anybody who's been in the Navy, you can request that your ashes be buried at sea. But there was recently a story about one of the last people who survived the wreck of the USS Arizona died, and divers took their ashes down and put them into the ship so that they could be at rest with their shipmates.
Right. Well, that's good. All right. Thank you much. All right.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for the call. Yeah. There's apparently a number of you who've been pondering what's going on with David Axelrod for a while. We seem to have struck a nerve there. And for those of you who are suggesting ship names, just in case the Navy decides that they need to honor Donald Trump with a ship, well, the USS Bone Spurs is one of the ones that I can share on the radio. Somebody said that it shouldn't be an aircraft carrier. If they want to name something for Trump, it should be a garbage scow. Okay. Somebody else was on the subject of Natalie Harp. The New York Times got a hold of and published 2 of the letters that she wrote Donald Trump. And this person says that, a point that seems to have escaped notice, someone in the White House must have turned against Trump. Otherwise, Natalie Harp's creepy-sounding memos, how else were they leaked? It's doubtful that Trump or Harp leaked them, and Senator Ossoff didn't leak them. So how did the media get these letters? Well, the New York Times printed 2 of her letters, and supposedly there are quite a number of them. So I don't know if we are going to be hearing more about that in the future or not. There is other stuff going on right now. I have time to do this. Yes, I have time to do this. We talked about Air Force Major Jason Watson. He is the one who went to the steps of the Capitol and held up the sign that said we need to impeach and remove Donald Trump. He, of course, knew that at the very least he was ending his military career. And at worst, he may end up in jail because of that, because he is active duty. And there are rules about what active duty personnel can and cannot do. An attorney who is representing Jason Watson was talking about his case recently, and he was on CNN. And this was 3 days after Jason Watson was on CNN calling for Trump's impeachment, and it was the day before Watson was officially arrested. Since that's something that has continually been in the news, I wanted to share what the attorney, Christopher Mutimer, had to say. Listen to this.
We're not even aware what he's charged with yet. It's pretty ridiculous, if you ask me.
You still don't know what they're charging him with?
No, but I mean, based off of previous orders that have come from JAG, I would say we're expecting charges related to Article 88, which is contempt towards an officer, or Article 92, which is failure to obey, which would be related potentially to him not putting his uniform back on. He is facing significant jail time, possibly. He's facing discharge from the military. Depending how the government wants to stack charges or bring charges against him, we could be looking at serious jail time. And again, I just want to reiterate, he knows this. He's been in the military for 17 years. Major Watson is someone who cares deeply about this country and this Constitution. And I think he said this on your show Monday, and I thought it was beautiful, is that he knows people right now are scared and they're worried, and they are in a situation where they don't know what's going to happen as a result of this administration. And he wants people to know that they're not alone. And for people who may ask, why did he take his uniform off, or why is he not willing to take it? I can't speak for Major Watson, but what I can say is he has a deep, deep respect for that uniform. And he definitely has made it clear that he did not take an act and go out and protest and ask for an impeachment of the president, hoping other people would copy him. He is taking an action because he believes someone needs to do that, and he doesn't want anyone else in the military to have to do that. He knows this may have offended people, people who are currently serving or who may serve, but I believe that what you saw when someone, if there's a reason why he might not wear that uniform, it's because he wants to show a commitment to that uniform and respect for it.
That was Christopher Mutimer, who is the attorney representing Air Force Major Jason Watson, who made a very, very public protest against Donald Trump. Talks about how people are being afraid. Do you think it's those people who are afraid, who are willing to trash Doris Miller and rename the newest USS aircraft carrier for Donald Trump? It kind of seems like they might be people who are afraid. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with more after this.
Cancer affects all of us. Today alone, 5,370 people in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer. That's why Stand Up to Cancer funds and develops the newest and most promising cancer treatments to help patients today. Stand Up to Cancer wants to provide you with every opportunity to join in this mission. By donating your home, land, or commercial property, you can help Stand Up to Cancer fund innovative cancer research. Donating eases the stress associated with selling a home and can also help lead to the next breakthrough in cancer prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Stand Up to Cancer makes the process easy, and it may be tax deductible. It will take all of us standing up together to put an end to cancer as we know it. Help us save lives right now. Your home or property could hold the key to the next breakthrough in cancer research. Visit standuptocancer.org/giveproperty to learn more.
Suicide touches too many lives. In the U.S., it's the 11th leading cause of death, and here in Illinois, it's the 3rd leading cause for people ages 15 to 34. But together, we can bring hope. Join us at the Out of the Darkness Chicagoland Walk, presented by Happiness Project, to honor those we've lost and to show anyone struggling they are not alone. This year's walk will take place on Saturday, October 3rd at Montrose Harbor. When you register or donate, you're helping the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention fund life-saving research, education, and support for families affected by suicide. Support a cause that truly saves lives. Walk with us on October 3rd at the Out of the Darkness Chicagoland Walk and show your commitment to mental health and suicide prevention. Register or donate today at chicagowalk.org. That's chicagowalk.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Ray Miller. A severe thunderstorm watch continues until 10 p.m. tonight. Chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Otherwise, a blend of clouds and sun. High temperatures reach up to 80. Winds out of the southwest, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Chance of thunderstorms tonight. Lows level off around 65. Slight chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. Highs level off around 80. Mainly sunny skies. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 78 degrees.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Every Friday, we talk with Chris Fitzsimon. He is the podcaster for Stories from the States. It is a podcast sponsored by the States Newsroom. It comes out once a week. States Newsroom, of course, is an organization that puts reporters in the State House of every state, because oftentimes that is where Republicans get their worst ideas, and it's important to know what is happening around the country. Stories from the States podcast focuses on some of the reporting that is being done by some of those people. Chris Fitzsimon joins us to talk about each particular episode, which, by the way, you will very soon be able to hear on WCPT. So it's like we're all in on Stories from the States.
That is great. Thank you. How are you, Joan?
I am I'm okay. I'm okay. Usually I say peachy or something like that. But right. Today I'm actually a little bit under the weather. But you know what? I'm a professional, Chris. So I soldier on. I don't know about you, but I soldier on.
Well, nobody can tell. You are fabulous as always.
That's what a woman wants to hear. So a podcast about heat, climate emergencies, climate crisis.
Yeah, you remember, speaking of weather, you certainly don't sound under the weather, but the weather is having a giant impact in states around the country. I think we've sort of forgotten it in all the Trump bizarreness and all the crazy things that are happening. But we had a lot of stories in the last couple of weeks about what the heat that we're all experiencing off and on around the country is actually doing to our health, to our state budgets. And the folks at Pew did a really interesting report and study, which some of our states picked up, and then we did our own reporting about. I hadn't really thought about all this, but for example, and this is happening this year. In last summer, heat advisories were issued for every region of the continental United States and Alaska for the first time ever. And so think about just how hot it is, and everybody just complains about the heat. It has dramatic impacts on health. It has dramatic impacts on agriculture. It has dramatic impacts on infrastructure. And states are freaking out because it's become so expensive, you don't even think about it in the heat. For example, in There was a study done a couple years ago in Virginia that found on average, extreme heat days mean almost 60 more emergency room visits, 25 more hospitalizations compared to other days. We had a horrible case in North Carolina where a family's utilities were cut off in Rocky Mount. 3 people died in the house because it was so hot. There's a human cost. There's a healthcare cost. There are infrastructure. There are roads that are softening or cracking, expanding across the country. States are freaking out about that. We know about the farmers. The drought and the heat is causing massive crop loss. It contributes to wildfires, and all these things on their own we sort of see reported individually, but add them up, and it's hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And people are still denying that it's getting hotter. And part of the study, or stories, of course, is that they expect the number of extreme heat days to dramatically increase in the coming years because of, guess what? Climate change, which climate change and climate change denialists used to be sort of in the headlines back in the pre-crazy days, but it's still going on, and people are still denying it, and states are still struggling to develop policies to cope with all that. It's a sort of a fascinating take. I hadn't really thought about much of this until we started looking into it.
There was an interview where a reporter was recently sitting down with a climate expert. And the reporter said something like, well, we can see things are starting to get worse, but how long do we have? And the climate expert looked at the reporter and said, that ship has sailed. We are here. We are in the throes of it. Yes, we thought maybe we had another 5 years, but look around. We don't. This is our new normal. The question is maybe how do we keep it from getting worse? But it's here. We haven't prevented it. I mean, in Europe, over this summer, thousands and thousands of people have died. Because Europe is generally so cool, and they've got so many ocean breezes and other things that there isn't air conditioning like there is in the United States. And
that's right.
The last estimate I saw was like 2,000 or 3,000 in Spain. Maybe as many as 4,000 in France. I mean, the numbers are staggering.
They are staggering, and it's almost like we've literally got our head in the sand, and we continue to sort of ignore this at our own peril, both health-wise, the dramatic hundreds of millions of dollars it's costing us every year around the country. It's getting worse. Roads have buckled. It's a fascinating thing. I think some states are trying to do what they can, but we have an administration that's pushing more fossil fuel instead of renewable energy, which, that's not going to help. That's taking us in the wrong direction. There are estimates just in in California alone over the last decade, as much as $35 million in infrastructure damage per extreme heat event. So the numbers are just, and California is trying to do something about it. Imagine, what's happening in the states where the leaders aren't even accepting that it's happening. So pretty interesting, I think, to think about there's so many in this era we're living in where we're denying science on all fronts, whether it's, vaccines or climate change or various other things. It's really, it all adds up to a serious issue of human cost, financial cost. It's really something.
And, our poor farmers, they were terrified. They weren't going to be, able to fertilize their fields because of all of the different trade wars and tariff wars. And now their findings, like you said, in some places where the drought is so bad, they can't get their crops to survive. I mean, the first tier of damage is to their own economic well-being. The second tier of damage is going to be we're not going to get the easy access to foodstuffs that we had before, which means, here's a shock, everything is going to be rarer, everything's going to be more expensive. It's the gift that just keeps giving.
That's right. And there actually are, as part of this reporting, they're actually, when the crops and the food, when the crops don't work or the drought prevents food from being harvested, there's a dramatic increase in the number of people who don't have affordable food, people who need SNAP have increased in these areas on these extreme weeks and months. And of course, we're cutting SNAP. I mean, it's all related. That's the whole why I can't ever quite figure out the direction we're headed these days. There's no holistic approach to trying to figure these things out. When I think Republicans and Democrats 15 or 20 years ago were at least talking about it. We might have disagreed about the solution, but we agreed on the problem. Now the problem isn't even something that there's a consensus about, and we're denying it. And it really makes you wonder about how much longer we can continue down this road.
Well, denying it publicly, but my guess is that those conservatives and Republicans who believed this was a concern before probably still believe it. They've just learned that they can't talk about it for fear of coming under the crosshairs, for fear of, not getting the new contracts. In Trump's first term, there was a Republican lawyer that I had on my radio show a couple of times. And, he would try to defend Trump and toe the party line until the segment was over. And then he would tell me what he really thought, which was completely different than what he said on the radio. And I stopped inviting him, not because, because of the way he felt, but the fact that he was so afraid to be honest. And you see that over and over and over again. How many reporters will say, or other legislators will say, well, behind the scenes, they say this, this, and this. But publicly, you'd think that they thought Trump was the most brilliant leader we've ever had. I don't know what we do with that kind of cowardice.
No, but you can just imagine, they probably already are, but documentaries or movies that are going to come out about this era. And, you were alluding to it, the stories about people in the green room all sort of agreeing on all how insane this was. And then the camera lights come on and some of the panelists have a completely different view. And I don't know what's in a way more troubling, those people or the true believers who won't listen to science and won't accept it, or the people who know better and will deny it. But either way, it's having a devastating impact on us across the board.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Oh, well, let's think of a silver lining for this, Chris. In Rome, the Tiber got low and some ancient ruins, a bridge that Nero built has popped up. In Las Vegas out in the West, we're finding bodies that apparently the mob dropped into water, decades ago. I just read, I think it was this morning, that somebody has now found a steamboat that crashed. I mean, so it's kind of like it's uncovering history when all that water goes away, right?
Well, there you go. When you said Nero, I was wondering if we're going to get to the fiddling part. But it is interesting about there's archaeological advantages. Maybe that's the best way to spin it.
Yeah. Okay. Chris Fitzsimon and I are going to take a break. We're going to talk more about stories from the states and some of the newsletters that the state's newsroom is putting out when we come right back after this.
Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
Chris, before we move off this, Chris Fitzsimon is here. We're talking about Stories from the States podcast. We talked about agriculture. I talked about all the historical artifacts that are suddenly showing up as these normally full reservoirs drain. We've talked about how it affects infrastructure. What are the things that here in Illinois we can do? Is it state by state? Because I would assume, each state has a different weather program. They have different things that might be damaged by excessive heat.
It is our stories have been focused on the states, and the Pew report was also on the states because states are more responsive, can do more things. But, not too many years ago, the federal government was a partner. That has increasingly not happened as much. So there are states around the country that are doing things. Some of the more bluer states are ahead, but all states are trying to figure out new ways to build infrastructure that's not as susceptible to heat waves. There's all sorts of cooling centers and figuring out how to get to people who don't have. You mentioned the lack of air conditioning in Europe, but people who don't have air conditioning in the U.S. who aren't used to this, if if there's a heat advisory in Alaska, I'm going to guess that they're not used to that. And so there's all sorts of things that our states are doing. Wisconsin has a great program called the Heat Vulnerability Data Explorer, and it tries to figure out where in the state the worst things are so they can figure out how to get to people. New Jersey, Delaware, there are a lot of states that are trying to do things. But, the fundamental problem is the climate is changing, and that takes a massive national and international effort. And in the meantime, the states have to jump in because the federal government is abdicating its responsibility on so many levels.
Years and years ago, when this was first becoming a big part of the conversation, there were people who believed that one day in the United States we might have water wars. That, you're already seeing it out west, like, oh, California used too much, and, well, you don't deserve it, I mean, this is our water. And it was suggested that one day we might have to defend the Great Lakes because, everybody would be looking at us going, they have water, let's tap into their water. And I talked to a couple of people about that, and they were kind of like, Joan, take a chill pill. It's not going to happen. But now I'm thinking maybe we should revive those worries. Maybe we should start planning our Great Lakes defense outfit. I don't know.
Well, there's a big battle now in the West over the Colorado River system and the water that serves so many states. There's a ongoing drought, over allocation of that water, especially, it's happening in a lot of places, but the West and the Southwest, that has been going on for years, and that is getting worse due to all these issues. So that literally is going to be the battle of the future in parts of the country, unless we figure out how to deal with it.
Well, I guess we don't have to start the military action to defend the Great Lakes until we see if it comes to armed conflict out west. Because I've been speaking to people lately they're getting very, very angry with the state of California, because the state of California is the heck with you. Find your drinking water someplace else. We've got to water our avocados. Don't you understand that? And the huge amount of money that goes into water for agriculture in California. And apparently California's rather reluctant attitude to talk about it or share. So if they break out into armed conflict, then, Chris, it'll be time to start the Great Lakes Defense Fund, and, maybe how are we going to defend the people who come for our water? Oh, and what are we going to do about Canada? Because it's kind of their water too, isn't it, Chris?
Well, Canada, maybe Canada will be a state by then.
I don't know. Did you see, though, that the petition to have the Parliament there discuss the removal of the American ambassador to Canada takes something like 5,000 signatures or 500 signatures to get the topic to the floor. They now, last I heard, which was more than a week ago, they had 170,000 signatures on the petition to have Parliament discuss making Mr. Hoekstra persona non grata and shipping him back to the United States, in part because he keeps saying things like, oh, why wouldn't you want to be the 51st state? Why wouldn't you want that? That would be great.
It's a giant category, but speaking of things we never thought we'd be talking about just a few years ago, the anger of Canadians at Americans and talking, it's really something, isn't it? One other quick thing I just want to talk about that we mentioned this week in our news wrap up, which I think is fascinating. We've talked a million times about data centers. We talk about that. We don't have to talk about that again. But this whole thing with flock cameras around the country.
Yes, that's part of your Daybreak newsletter, right? With Madison Fitzgerald.
Absolutely, people are losing their minds. Understandably, there was a case in Wisconsin where a police officer was convicted of misusing the license plate reader cameras, these flock cameras, because he was trying to track his ex-girlfriend. He was searching between 15,000 and 92,000 cameras across the whole network to try to find his ex-girlfriend and track her and basically stalk her, and was convicted. And this is the latest sort of example of the invasion of privacy and the misuse of these cameras. Now there's a Rhode Island governor has ordered a pause on new flock cameras. Huntington, West Virginia is furious that the city council has approved flock cameras there, and they have this whole canvassing campaign going on that is called Get the Flock Out, which I thought was a pretty creative title.
Yeah, that is excellent. And I have read, that guy, his case was very public, but I've read about similar things about police officers misusing this kind of access to this kind of data to get information that they should otherwise not be getting. And I know there have also been concerns that ICE will tap into and acquire all this data. And, you then will have one more way to fear your government spying on you.
Yeah, it's really something. It feels like we're into this era where that campaign, that anti-flock campaign, is spreading across the country, just like the data centers thing, just like the people who say they support Trump's immigration policy don't want detention centers. We've really talked about it. I think people are furious at what's happening, and they're taking it out. These things are not only that do they not want these specific things, but I think they're symbolic of their anger towards the way the country is going, how they feel disempowered, spied on, lied to about a big project in their area, and they don't even hear about it. There's a non-disclosure agreement with their local governments, and next thing they know, they hear there's an enormous data center or detention center coming in near their house. There's really something going on, which I think politicians are finally waking up to, and now a lot of them are scrambling to try to get on the side of the people. That old joke about leadership is when you find out where the people are headed and you run and get in front of them. I think that's sort of what's happening.
Well, for so many of that, you mentioned internment centers, you mentioned data centers. People feel like they're either not told at all about the repercussions, or they're not told the truth. I mean, how would you, I don't understand how especially local governments can be trying to do these data center deals, and when by now they must realize that if this becomes, or when this becomes public, people are going to be furious with them.
Right. And because the people feel lied to, the danger is not only immediate, but I'm really concerned about, it's just like everything in this era. People now, I think we talked about this last week or maybe the week before, about even when data centers, some of the companies trying to now scramble and do the right thing, or at least mitigate things, and the people don't believe them because they've been lied to. You can't lie to everybody for years and then say, okay, now we're telling you the truth. That's the whole thing about whether it's election denialism, climate change denialism, lies about vaccines and healthcare. You can't lie to people over and over and over, and then at some point say, okay, now we're telling you the truth, and expect them to believe you. And that's a fundamental distrust of all big institutions, whether it's, banks, corporations, technology, government. It's really, we are going to be wrestling with this for quite a while, and it's showing up in all these interesting and troubling ways, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do people sign up for the Daybreak newsletter?
Well, the best way to go to statesnewsroom.com or newsfromthestates.com. Newsfromthestates.com is probably the best way. There's the Daybreak newsletter, which comes out at 8 a.m. Eastern time, so 7 a.m. your time every day, and then Evening Wrap, which comes out at 7 Eastern or 6 your time. So they're sort of bookend newsletters, and every week on the podcast, one or both, usually both of those newsletter authors join me to talk about the news of the week and in state, and we get into some national things too. And we've gotten a great response.
I mean, the stories like flock cameras, those are both local, state, and national stories.
That's right. Yeah, and I think I've told you before, when we started States Newsroom, we say, and we still do focus primarily on the states, but we never dreamed we would be focusing on how states are reacting to this just radical change in what the federal government is doing, denying or fighting, disaster aid to blue states because they didn't support Trump, or mad at Colorado because they arrested a woman, Tina Peters, who broke the law and was imprisoned, or trying to keep, universities that they don't like from getting money, and the states trying to figure out what to do, cutting people off of SNAP and Medicaid that are eligible. The list goes on and on. Research funding, all these things. I don't think states ever thought they'd have to figure out how to fill in the gap, and not to mention immigration enforcement, which is still a big deal, still in the news. We have stories every week about people who are detained, who are here legally, who have green cards, or who are awaiting who came here legally, have checked in every day, and they're arrested at all sorts of places. It's happening. It's still happening everywhere, and it's not getting quite the attention that it used to get. And it's happening in every state in the country.
Yes, it is. Chris, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us this week's episode. I look forward to our conversation here every Friday at 3:30, unless, of course, Chris is on vacation or I'm on vacation. Other than that, we're here every Friday. But no more vacation time for me. How about for you?
No, I'll do some traveling. I'll work traveling, but I think I'm all out of vacation.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks,
and on all the good work that the States Newsroom does, including the Stories from the States podcast. We are going to be taking a break for news. Before we get to that, though, the Wall Street Journal has just broken a story that the Secretary of the Army is expected to leave by the end of the year. Dan Driscoll was apparently close to General Randy George, who was, of course, fired by Pete Hegseth. He was the Army's chief of staff. Apparently, according to Wall Street Journal reporting, Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Hegseth have been, shall we say, butting heads. And one of the indications that this has been in the works for a while, a lot of White House officials, because they're so scared of their safety, because like nobody else is worried about their safety in this world, they've been moving into houses available on Army posts, military posts. And this summer, Dan Driscoll moved his family out of the government house that is reserved for the Army Secretary. Wall Street Journal again announcing now that they're announcing it, that it's going to happen by the year's end. My guess is that it will happen sooner. But you know what? You disagree with this administration, you try to slow the roll of somebody like Pete Hegseth, and it's pretty much the end of your career. And I really hope that when Democrats resume power, that we undo some of this, that we bring some of these people back, that the people who saved their military careers by saying yes, 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 those people are not fit to be in our military. They should be investigated. I'm not saying they should be summarily fired, but they should be investigated to see whether or not they followed their oath. We'll be back right after the news.
Hey, where's Hal Sparks? I'm not sure where he is now, but I know where you can find him Saturdays at 11. He'll be right here on WCPT 820 for the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Quite frankly, I get most of my news from you.
Joan Esposito.
Y'all ready for this?
On WCPT 820.
There's been a lot of reporting about the Chicago public school system recently, what the unions are doing, what the school board, those running to be on the school board think, and who's endorsed them. And it's going to be this November. We will vote and have the first ever fully elected Chicago School Board president. Stacey Davis Gates is head of the Chicago Teachers Union. She's here to talk with me. And in the interest of full disclosure, my daughter-in-law is a Chicago Public Schools teacher. She is a member of the Chicago Teachers Union. So I will not let that cloud my discussion with Stacey Davis Gates, but I thought it was something that I needed to tell you. Stacey, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. And it won't cloud it. It will actually deepen the discussion, quite frankly.
Well, I contact her all the time. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I recently, Sun-Times, when did they report this? They reported this recently, that voters who have the chance in November to elect a Chicago School Board president, at least a third of them have no idea who to vote for. They're not even sure they're going to vote. Let's talk about the candidates. And there is one candidate who is reputed to be the favorite of the teachers union, but there's been more reporting that that the unions, the big unions, are all supporting somebody different. It's been reported that the CTU wants Hilario Dominguez, SEIU has endorsed Jessica Biggs, and the Operating Engineers Local 150 is behind Jennifer Custer. Is that true? Is the Chicago Teachers Union behind Hilario Dominguez?
Well, let's start here. This is the first time in the history of the city that voters will have an opportunity to vote for a school board. As you know, you've covered schools for some time here in Chicago. You know that this is the first time ever where mom and dad get a choice at who gets to set policy and budget priorities for our school district. So for a moment, I think Chicagoans need to celebrate the opportunity that they have. You talk every day about the lack of democracy coming out of D.C. and the marginalization of our rights. Well, in Chicago, we are expanding democracy by allowing parents to have a say finally. So I'm excited for Chicago to do something that's very different than what's being done in a lot of places in our world right now. So I don't want us to drive past that. That's remarkable.
Well, the argument before, as I understood it, from the mayor's office was, the mayor is going to be responsible for any criticism of what the Chicago public schools are doing. Therefore, the mayor should have the power to name some or all of the board and the president. Sort of like, if you're going to make me take the blame, you ought to let me have some input. What do you think of that argument? Does it stand?
Well, the problem with that argument is that they never took the blame. The teachers took it and the families took it and our students took it, but they never took the blame. They obfuscated. They played politics. They put millions of dollars into races to make it a non-issue. So the problem with that argument is that it never meted out into reality in terms of who took accountability, everyone but them, quite frankly. So that's thing one. I think thing two that we need to think about as this race is, ensuing is what do we want our public schools to have? Right now, we have to have vision. For so long, we talk about it in a defensive way, what it doesn't have, what it doesn't do, but what does it need to do? What can it do? What can we wish it to do? And what does this opportunity give us an opportunity to do together? That's how we're looking at it at the Chicago Teachers Union. Look, I'll get to the horse race. I understand that. I'm not, sidestepping it. And as a teacher, it is important for me to say that participating in this election is teaching a new skill to Chicagoans. And when teachers teach a new skill, we have to introduce it, we have to provide context, and we have to take our time with it. And we have to be very clear not to define it like the things that they've already been defined. The worst thing that could happen is that the school board election becomes like an automatic election or a mayoral election or a state rep or a state senator election. I don't want to talk to any candidate that's not also talking to me about issues that parents like me are experiencing. Transportation is a huge issue. I talk about this with my neighbors. I talk about this with my friends who have school-age children. We're struggling with that. My children talk about having off-campus lunch because they don't want the lunch in the schools. So this election, unlike many of the elections before us, it has to be very specific and local in what it speaks to and who it's speaking to. So that's the first thing, the second thing that I want your listening audience to grasp. And finally, the horse race of it. I didn't get to choose anyone. Our House of Delegates, our highest governing body, they endorsed a slate of candidates, in fact, that represent the needs that they have in their school communities with the students that they are educating. And they're very, very excited about it.
You know, for those people who have maybe their kids are grown or they've never had any kids that are involved in either public or private schooling, what does a school board president do?
The school board president is leading the institution of public schooling here in this city with the superintendent of the Chicago Public Schools. It helps to set an agenda. It creates an opportunity for the community, for parents, for students, all stakeholders to convene and to decide. It creates the capacity for the board to take votes about things like budgets that have far-ranging impact. So the person is a convener, the person is a leader, and the person should have some understanding about how school works in the Chicago Public Schools. But even more importantly, they got to have an imagination. We think Eladio Dominguez has an imagination. He's a special education teacher. He is a Chicago Public School grad. He's someone who has attended underfunded schools. He's been a basketball coach, a track coach in our schools. He's someone who has had the experience and dimension as a Chicagoan, as a Chicago Public Schools teacher. So he knows the public school is a necessary institution in the city.
When it comes time to negotiate a new teacher's contract, will the new school board president be leading those negotiations with the union or just advising? How does that play out?
I don't know, because when I was able to sit at the table in 2019 and in 2024 and 2025, I never negotiated it with a school board member. I always negotiated it with the CEO and their designee at the table. So we have lawyers at the table, and we have senior level administrators from the district at the table. So that's who I've negotiated contracts with.
We need to take a break. I'm talking to Stacey Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union. When we come back, I want to ask you about a lawsuit that the CTU filed against the Illinois Policy Institute. We are going to be right back after this.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, it's Joan Esposito, and I want to tell you about 120 Life. 120 Life is a drink made with ingredients that help support healthy blood pressure. My mom struggled with high blood pressure for much of her adult life, and for many of us, it runs in the family. 120 Life is a great-tasting fruit and vegetable drink designed to improve your blood pressure. Put it to the test for a couple of weeks. Check your blood pressure. See if it works for you. Some people reported results in as little as 2 weeks. And if you like a fruit drink that isn't overly sugary, this is the fruit drink for you. To try it, go online to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. If your high blood pressure doesn't come down in 2 weeks, you can get a full refund. And you can get a 20% discount. Use the code JOAN, J-O-A-N, for 20% off your order. These statements have now been approved by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Don't turn that dial. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, returns right now.
A fair balance where the facts come out.
On WCPT 820.
Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates is here. Illinois Playbook reported not that long ago that the CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, was suing the Illinois Policy Institute, alleging toxic branding and defamatory claims about audits. Explain what motivated bringing this suit.
People have to tell the truth. We're all required to tell the truth. And so earlier this week, the CTU sued the IPI, the Liberty Justice Center in Austin Berg for defamation. They've put a multi-million-dollar smear campaign together to make our union toxic so that anything it touches becomes toxic. The IPI, it was started back in 2002 as a quote, marketing firm hidden inside of a think tank. They've had the backing of Republican Governor Bruce Rauner, and they've done things that, have helped to add to the toxicity of how people are engaging in this moment. We're standing up for ourselves. our members, and more importantly, the truth. And, we just think that is an extension of us being a good citizen and making sure that the truth is on the record.
Where does that lawsuit stand right now?
Well, obviously we just filed it, and so the lawyers have it, and, the legal system takes the time that it takes.
Yeah, really.
And it does, and it does so because it intends to be deliberate and fair, and we need both deliberate and fair in all situations.
Okay, we'll wait and see how that one evolves. So let's go back, if you wouldn't mind for a minute, to go back to this race for school board president. One of the fears when this whole idea was discussed, that the people who are able to get seats on the school board and as the school board president would just be the people with the most money. Because, if you wanted the job, you'd really have to campaign. And so, of course, the people who have the most money can sometimes wield the most effective campaigns. Is that a concern for you?
I mean, it's a concern for me in terms of every election. It's not just school board elections, though it concerns me more acutely in school board elections. Look, we are in a political climate in this world, and in particular in this country, where billionaires are deciding who gets to, serve the public, and that's not okay. We think that elections are the cornerstone, one of the bedrocks to how we do America, and they matter. And it needs to be as inclusive as possible. And we need to defend and safeguard against, attacks on it. And one person being able to decide it by writing one check, we saw that here in Illinois before. Remember, Ken Griffin wrote like a $26 million check to torpedo fair tax campaign. Like, that's a bad idea. So the one person who would be in a position to pay more to kill this thing that would have helped people. You just saw in Michigan that there was a $70 million Senate race. How many medical debts could be canceled with $70 million? How many meals can be given to families who don't have SNAP benefits anymore without amount of money? It's growth, quite frankly, especially when there is such great and pronounced need in our world today.
Absolutely. This has been reported as an unusual event that the three major unions have all gotten behind different candidates to be board president. Why do you think that is? What is it that the SEIU wants in a candidate that is different from what the CTU wants?
Actually, I don't think that is unprecedented. It's not unprecedented. Actually, quite the contrary. Unions are routinely on different sides in different elections. This is not the first time. In fact, this happens quite frequently. So, I'm not clear on the benchmark that's being used in that particular analysis, because it is pretty common for unions to pick different candidates, especially in primaries. I've been doing this work for quite some time, and I can tell you that has been a part of my experience in this work. One of the things that I think is glaring in this moment as we are embarking on this new election cycle is that there's a lack of curiosity by those who are covering the election. They don't know anything about it. The most important people are the kids and the families that need the Chicago Public Schools to work. And all we're getting is political horse trading and who's doing this and who's doing that. That's not why this particular election matters. This particular election matters. We should be talking to coaches and athletic directors, bus drivers and bus aides. We should be talking to grandparents who are shepherding another generation of kids through the Chicago Public Schools. We should be talking to black moms who live on the south side and the west side, who spend an inordinate amount of time in their cars because 50 schools closed back in 2013. these are the people who deserve the microphone and the amplification because they finally get to be the main character. Kids who want band in their school, kids who want state-of-the-art, athletic facilities in their schools. These are the people who deserve prime time, not the people who do this for the mayoral, not the people who do this for the automatic. I just think that people need to take a deep breath, do a pause, reassess what this is and what it is not, and then comply to what is necessary to explore this new moment that I'm quite frankly humbled to participate in. What a pleasure it will be for coaches and athletic directors and band teachers to have conversations with their neighbors and with their families about what they need in their school communities. And then to hear school board candidates, receive that and give them strategies and ideas and platforms about how we're going to get there. That's what I want to talk about. I do not want to talk about this other mess. We have enough time for that. We're going to do that for the municipals.
So the biggest mess you're concerned about is the stuff that you just mentioned, and that's going to be where you put most of your attention in the near future.
Absolutely. The Chicago Teachers Union, and let me make this crystal clear to everyone, we're interested in making sure we win the debate on public education. Number one, that it has to be sustainable. That's why we're saying no to mayoral candidates who are coming in the room talking about cutting off 30% of the district. You got to say no to that. School closings are a failed endeavor by every measurement known to man. They are a failed endeavor. So we have to start talking about something else, right? So the 78th, the new community being planned adjacent to Chinatown right now, they're talking about that community, but you know what they're talking about in that community? A K-8 school and a 9th through 12th grade school. They're talking about building community with schools as the anchors. That's the discussion we get to have in this moment. How are the South Side and the West Side going to become revitalized? How do we keep young people and young families in the city? Well, probably by offering universal early childhood education, right? 3 years old, 4-year-olds, kindergarten students, making it available and at the local school. That would mean that instead of closing schools, we're building schools. I want to talk about transportation. Kids need bus stops, and we need kids not on the CTA, but on a yellow bus. And why are we contracting that out and doing a bad job at it? Mm-hmm. We have an opportunity to talk about public school, how it's sustainable, how the state, quite frankly, is failing us and not paying for it, not just here in Chicago, but across this state. 50,000 of my members in the Illinois Federation of Teachers are teaching at schools right now that are underfunded. Just teaching in schools. Those are districts all across the state. And only and about half of them are in districts outside of Chicago. So this idea that CPS is the only school being underfunded, that's not true. We have so many schools that are being underfunded in Illinois right now. There's so much coalition and common cause just on making sure that our funding mechanisms have the resources in them.
I know that my daughter-in-law has said she's been teaching at the same school, and she said that because of a lack of busing, they don't have as many students as they used to have because the busing is no longer available. And, that's something that people don't think about, that some people require that kind of help with transportation to get to a school, a quote-unquote neighborhood school.
You are exactly right. Listen, that's why this election is different, because you actually get to solve for hyper-local issues, and you get to connect the dots to people like our governor, who right now is trying to make a decision on how he's going to address the funding shortages, right? Yes, it's going to be difficult, but it can't be any difficult than trying to get a deal with the McCaskey family. So I'm trying to figure out, like, how we do this together. Chicagoans are going to have an opportunity to have this big debate. God bless us for having that opportunity. I'm so pleased about that. So that's one thing. The second thing is that we're going to have to decide and clarify and commit to the sustainability of the Chicago public schools. And the governor is going to have to become a partner in that endeavor. And so that's the work right now. And everything we're doing at the Chicago Teachers Union is focused in on that. Our kids deserve everything and then some. We believe our union is a vehicle to obtaining some of that.
Well, Stacey, thank you so much. I know that you've got a really busy schedule, and we were kind of moving this interview all around to make sure we could get it on the air. Thank you for being flexible, and thank you for being here.
Well, listen, we should do this more often. I've missed talking to you and your membership. I referenced a couple of times that I do listen, but I haven't been able to talk to you. So let's figure out how to do this more regularly. I'm
going to tell you, be careful what you wish for, because we take those kinds of offers very seriously here. So you'll be getting one very soon. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you and enjoy your weekend.
Chicago Teachers Union President Stacey Davis Gates. We're going to take a break and be back with more after this.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
In September, there's always a weekend where the Printers Row Lit Fest occurs, and it is a great place. Booksellers are there, authors are there. There are half a dozen venues where you can hear interesting conversations with some of the authors where they talk about their work. It is coming up this September, the 12th and the 13th in Printers Row. And one of those stages is called the Digital Realty Stage. It's on West Polk at Plymouth Court, just in case you're interested. And on Saturday, the first event to take place on the Digital Realty Stage is a discussion with several members of the Pulitzer Prize-winning Chicago Tribune staff who reported on Operation Midway Blitz. They will be in conversation with Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Bill Healy, Andrew Carter, Gregory Royal Pratt, Laura Rodriguez-Presa, Erica Slife will be there on stage. And Gregory and Laura are here right now to talk about this. Welcome, welcome, both of you.
Hello, thanks for having us.
You know,
it's always our pleasure.
These days, Gregory, I usually see you at parties. Ray Long's going away party and other parties. It's nice to speak to you in your professional capacity again. Appreciate that. So what is it you guys, I know that you may not know exactly what Bill Healy is going to be asking you, but what is it that you are going to be sharing with the audience about your reporting on Operation Midway Blitz? Laura, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit of how we went about our coverage, the work that we did behind the scenes, and how much it took for us to be able to do all that work, and also maybe share some of the anecdotes and some of the our personal journey to cover this.
Because it was, in addition to quite a professional effort, it took a lot of personal energy as well. I know, Gregory, that, when we were at the Hideout together, that was one of the things that you talked about with reporting on Operation Midway Blitz. What are you going to share with the audience?
Well, the personal toll is something, it never thought that, fighting with government officials is something that we do for a living. It's a part of the job. But being under attack by government officials is something else. So, I always find it remarkable what an attack on freedom of speech we experienced in the fall, and how we persevered through it to tell very important stories about people being mistreated by the government.
Laura, can you tell us an anecdote about your work on this subject?
Sure. Yeah, I think that like Greg mentioned, just the great toll that it took on us. But one thing that really stands out to me is just the effort that it took to stay connected to the community at a moment where they were really afraid to speak to anyone, and how that became the heart of our coverage, right? How we learn and what we learn in terms of how journalism works nowadays, and the importance of it, of listening to community members and not necessarily taking the word of authorities at face value, and more so hearing from community members. And one thing that I will always remember is being able to contact the mother of the family that was detained at Millennium Park, which I believe was kind of when people really started paying attention to what the Border Patrol was doing when they were patrolling our streets, right? They went downtown, they went by Millennium Park, and they happened to take a Guatemalan family, and there was a little girl holding her doll as they were walking her family and her parents, right, inside one of their vehicles. And it was a Sunday night. I was with my family. I don't typically work on Sunday nights, but during that time, I think all of us were working 24/7. And, I happened to share that image, and her teacher was the one that reached out to me. And that's how we were able to locate the mother. And it was at a time where, no politician, no one at ICE was giving us any information. And so that will always stay close to me, because, being able to speak to the parents inside O'Hare, I was able to find out that there were a lot more families in there with a lot more children. And so, the Guatemalan consulate was able to reach them, right, and in there. And now the family has been released and is still working towards their asylum case here.
Gregory, when it's difficult enough to get somebody to talk about a situation they might be involved in that's, they're worried about, or it's dicey, it must be even more difficult to get someone to talk with you when they are actually afraid for themselves, afraid for their family. How did you work with people to make them trust you?
Well, I think patience and respect is what always matters with all reporting, and especially extra sensitive one. But I personally try to treat everybody with respect and patience as best I can, and especially in these types of situations. So it's understanding where people are coming from. It's understanding why they're scared. It's understanding what their circumstances are and what the consequences could be. And then just listening and talking and saying, if you're not ready to tell your story right now, that's okay. And, there can be someone else. We can come back to something. But it's critically important to treat people with respect and patience and meet them where they're at.
Did you get people asking you if there were ways you could help them?
Yeah, and that happens with all reporting. And our job, it's a tricky thing. Our job is not to act as a referral service for a lawyer or something. But I will tell people about publicly available resources, sure, and I think that we can do that. We can talk to people about their situation. I wouldn't want to mess somebody's situation up by giving them legal advice or something, because I am not a lawyer, despite what I might think when I'm getting into an argument.
Did anybody on your team, Andrew Carter, you, Gregory, Laura, Erica Slife, did any of you ever get a sit down with ICE or one of the leaders, Dan Bovino or somebody?
No, and I think we're still trying to get someone other than, when some of our photographers or reporters kind of ran into them when they were out in the streets. I think that's kind of as far as we got with being able to speak to Bovino or social media. And, what I wanted to mention too is you mentioned trust. And part of the reason why I think our team just was able to do the job that we did is because we have been covering the immigrant community way before this happened. And I think that's really important. And people really already had some kind of trust in us. So I think that helped a lot as well.
That is, those kinds of, once the first time somebody might deal with you as a reporter, maybe they don't know quite what to make of you or how honest they can be with you. But once you've proven yourself and people believe you're someone they can trust, it really does open doors, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think during that time, we, like you mentioned, people asking for help, but it also became so important for us to become and be a part of those community groups that were forming as things were happening. And that's where we kind of, as me, for example, being an immigrant myself, I was able to really understand what they were feeling and where they were coming from, and also where could I meet them, where could I find them, and how to get them to trust us and talk to us, of course.
How did you guys? There were 4 of you that were on this prize-winning team. How did you decide on a daily basis who was going to be where, covering what?
That's an amazing question. Our editor Erica was first in triaging that, but it's about finding, I will say it was a newsroom wide effort. There's a core group of people that did more work than others, perhaps, but it is bigger. It is a bigger team than 4. Mm-hmm. There were 4 reporters on the 64 days capstone story, but it was a big newsroom wide. But it's kind of a matter of because we can't write about every single arrest and every single incident. It's about trying to find out what are the biggest things. What's the most. Violence is important, right? State violence is important. So, is there violence happening? Is there violence happening against how many people? Does it represent a trend? Does it represent a bigger story, a bigger narrative? Does it grab your attention? There was, and that's an incredibly difficult thing to do every day because we don't have a team of 3,000 people to cover all 3,000 individual arrests.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I would have to agree that, it was definitely a newsroom effort. And I think that it because of how things were developing and how quickly and unprecedented, it was like a daily thing, right? Very early in the morning, we were already in that immigration channel kind of communicating and figuring out, okay, what's happening today, right? Not necessarily, again, like Greg mentioned, not reporting every single arrest, but what really sticks out that will be helpful for the community to know.
I'm talking to Gregory Royal Pratt and Laura Rodriguez Presa about their appearance at LitFest, Printers Row LitFest, September 11th and 12th. They will be premiering on Saturday. They'll be premiering the digital realty stage at 11 a.m. We are going to take a break. We're going to be back with more of this discussion right after this.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Are you interested in buying a new house or refinancing the one you've got? Call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender with nearly 800 5-star Google reviews, like this one from Chuck. My wife and I were looking to purchase a condo to be near our grandchildren and weren't sure where to begin. So we contacted Team Hochberg, who did an excellent job. David Hochberg was a breath of fresh air, no baloney, and very transparent, which was refreshing. He knows his stuff like the back of his hand. No gimmicks, no BS. Thank you, David. Chuck and his wife wanted to move closer to the grandkids, so they got in touch with David Hochberg, and David answered their questions, helped them find a condo and buy a condo near the grandchildren. If you want that same outstanding service, call Team Hochberg, 855-563-2843, or go online, 56david.com. That number again, 855-563-2843, or online, 56david.com. And I want to remind you that this coming week, Tuesday from 3 to 4, David Hochberg will be joining me to take and answer all of your questions. ACM Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643114.
Now back to Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on WCPT 820.
September 12th and 13th, Printers Row will be doing their annual Lit Fest. It is so much fun. There will be at least half a dozen venues where people are going to be talking about their work. There are bookstores that will be there selling books. Sometimes there'll be authors selling their wares right along the street. One of the stages is the Digital Realty stage, and at 11 a.m. on Saturday, there will be a discussion about Operation Midway Blitz. Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Bill Healy is going to be talking to some other Pulitzer Prize winners from the Chicago Tribune. Andrew Carter is going to be there. Gregory Royal Pratt is going to be there. Laura Rodriguez-Presa is going to be there. And Erica Slife is going to be there. We are getting a preview of what they are going to be talking about. And, it occurs to me, guys, this is LitFest. So when are you going to publish the book that I'm convinced you must have written about all this?
Greg's already an author. I don't know if he's getting.
Yes, he is. And I have interviewed him in that capacity, which is why, come on, Gregory, another book. It will be easy. It'll write itself.
That could be true. And the question is, would it publish itself, But I think that, I think that what we experience here, and I'm very proud to have worked with Laura in particular, was a incredible historical event. It was a unprecedented invasion of an American city by the federal government for the sheer purpose of terrorizing people and making a political point. And I think that there probably is a book there somewhere, and probably several books. And if I have a cheerleader like you on board for that, then it's probably a great idea.
You mentioned. Sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was me, Laura. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. No, I was, you mentioned the book, and I think that through our coverage too, we realized just the power of narratives, right? Telling stories of what people were going through, not just as a brief, fast news story, breaking story, but more so, right? Like a narrative, a longer piece, really adding details, color, and feeling, and that really, really changes everything for everyone. And I think that helps everyone understand what people were experiencing and what people are still experiencing, because yes, we talk about what happened, but we have to remember that this is not over, right? There's a lot of things that developed from that and that are still happening. And then there are people are still living in fear, and the federal government is still definitely trying to reach those numbers, right, of mass deportation.
Well, talking about what's coming, the Department of Justice has already announced that more than 100 poll watchers, DOJ poll watchers, are going to be sent to various polling places for the midterm election. And of course, the rumors, the fears continue that this White House might send ICE agents to patrol, intimidate at polling places. Have you guys, I don't know if you have any connections of insiders who are telling you what ICE is going to do or when they're going to do it, but if this does happen, how is the best way to cover it? Gregory?
Well, the best way to cover everything is to put your socks on, tie your shoes, and get out there. So, that's number one. And there's a million different things happening in the world, and then there's a million different things that you worry about potentially happening, and that's something to pay a lot of attention to. And if that's happening, we'll cover it. We'll go out there, we'll talk to people, we'll call government officials, we'll call community leaders, community members, real people, and look into it. So I think that people, that's just kind of how the reporting process is you get a notebook, you put your shoes on, and you get to work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great movement happening now within the community with trying to push people to go out and vote. And I think part of what they're doing is also letting them know that there could be some, rumors like this going on to try to stop them from going out there. One, people that vote have to be U.S. citizens, so they would not be undocumented. But they certainly are trying to push them so that they're better informed and that they actually go out there and vote. And well, like Greg mentioned, right, we will be out there and trying to get as much information as we can. We usually don't know how they're going to operate, so it all comes as a rumor to us as well. And I think we try the best we can to be there just in case.
What about personal safety? I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to go out somewhere where ICE is patrolling. How do you worry about that? What do you do to keep yourself safe?
So, actually during the Blitz, I was not I was not out there when there were officials very much because of my safety, right? Because we were worried that at any point they were just going to take me as well. So I try to stay away from that, but I will be on the phone or monitoring or following someone through social media or whatnot, or to make sure that I knew where to go, or calling all my sources. I think it was a little different for Pratt and other people in our team.
Gregory, was it different for you?
Yeah, I got very accustomed to putting on a gas mask and to having a gas mask just in case there's a tear gas incident. I still keep it in my car. There's just the get a gas mask, memorize a lawyer's phone number, make sure that when you're going out to certain types of things, you have your shared location for people that you really care about and that you trust to know where you're going. And then, that's the fundamentals, is make sure you have some equipment, make sure people know where you're going. And fortunately for me, I'm too stupid to be intimidated.
When I was a reporter and was sent out to somewhere where the situation was a little dicey, we would always, at the television station, we would hire off-duty police officers to essentially act like bodyguards. Wow. Do you ever think about, I know this sounds ridiculous, but we've seen the violence. Do you ever think about getting a bulletproof vest?
Well, we have bulletproof vests in the newsroom, particularly they're kind of a leftover from overnight crime, when we would send overnight crime reporters out to cover crime overnight. So we've got some of that in the newsroom. I personally, I don't. The thing I worry about with something like that is you don't want people feeling like you are scared to go into the community or confusing you for a police officer or something. I think it's mildly disrespectful for a reporter to go into like Brighton Park or something, or Englewood, with a bulletproof vest on. Like, I think it says something about the neighborhood that isn't true. And then, obviously, with regard, I couldn't fault someone for saying, oh, there's ice in town, I'm going to put on a bulletproof vest just in case. But I personally think that's overkill, and I think that could send the wrong message to the community as well.
Well, maybe not if you're covering something at a neighborhood, but if we had more protesting and confrontations at some place like Broadview, would that make you think twice about it? Laura, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's definitely a scary time to be a journalist, right? Especially a brown journalist, because anything can happen. And I the best that we do is we go out in pairs. But I do think that if there were larger protests, right, we kind of saw that in 2020, then maybe it wouldn't be such an outrageous idea, right, to have to wear a bulletproof vest.
Yeah, I guess you have to assess each situation on its own merits. I think that what you guys did, we talk all the time, and we do media segments here, and we talk about how newspapers are really being gutted. And despite whatever layoffs or cutbacks there have been at the Chicago Tribune, you guys went over and above to report on a story that was of so much importance, and you reported it from all different locations and all different angles. And, you know, if there was anybody who deserved recognition for this with a Pulitzer Prize, it is you guys. And I got to tell you, I'm in awe of the work that all of you did.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so nice and honor, and I feel honored to hear that from you.
Yeah, and I can't wait to share the stage with our great team at the Lit Fest. You know, me, Laura, Andrew, and Erica, and your words, as always, mean a lot to me too.
Well, you know, if you're interested in spending the whole day there, on that same stage at 2:00, I'm going to be interviewing Jeffrey Winters, who wrote a book about oligarchs. So I don't know if I'm going to get there early enough. I will try to get there early enough to hear you guys. But if you're hanging around, come back to the stage at 2:00 and say hello. Thank you. Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to have Gregory Royal Pratt back on, and of course, Laura Rodriguez Presa. And again, you can hear them at the Digital Realty Stage Saturday at 11 a.m. Thank you both for being here so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for me. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez is up next. Her co-host is Illinois State Rep Stephanie Kifowit. And they're going to be talking to Zia Varajan, a Chicago author whose book is about being trans and loving trans, is going to be a topic of their conversation. And remember, tomorrow is Saturday, which means Edwin Eisendrath is going to be not doing his show. Fooled you there, didn't I? Jill Wine-Banks is sitting in from 1 to 4. It will be a hoot and a half, as she always is. She's going to talk to Lynn Sweet, among other folks, as well as Kwame Raoul, our AG for Illinois. I will see you Monday. I will see you Monday at 2 p.m. Get out this weekend. Do something that makes you happy, that brings you joy, because you need all of your energy for the next 74 days till we get through the midterms. Have a great weekend, and good night.